The confession. Emergency broadcast interruption. The regular programming across every major communication network in the galaxy suddenly went dark. Screens flickered with static before displaying a single message in 12 different languages. Emergency Galactic BROADCAST. Philosophy information or Deadliest. Within moments, billions of beings across hundreds of star systems found themselves staring at the same unprecedented sight. The broadcast showed a detention cell aboard the neutral space station Harmony Prime, where the most dangerous war criminals in the galaxy were held. The prisoner speaks. Sitting behind reinforced plasma barriers was Commander Thexera, former leader of the Vorthan Dominion's Third Fleet. The Vorthans were known throughout the galaxy as master strategists and ruthless conquerors. Their dark blue skin was marked with silver battle scars, and their 4 arms had once commanded fleets that brought entire star systems to their knees. Thexera looked directly into the camera with her large amber eyes. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of defeat and something else entirely: fear. My name is Commander Thexera of the Vorthan Dominion. I speak to you today not as a prisoner, but as a survivor. I have come to warn the galaxy about the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. A species so deadly, so unpredictable, that 3 of our greatest fleets have been destroyed trying to understand them. She paused, her 4 hands clasping together in what viewers recognized as a Vorthan gesture of deep respect. I speak of the humans. Shock across the galaxy. The reaction was immediate and explosive. In the Andromedan Senate, lawmakers stopped mid-debate and stared at their screens. On the trading worlds of the Outer Rim, merchants dropped their goods and gathered around public displays. Even the warlike Krex Empire, humanity's supposed allies, watched with growing concern. Humans were still considered newcomers to galactic society. They had been discovered barely 50 years ago, inhabiting a small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system. Most species viewed them as primitive emotional creatures who had somehow stumbled into space travel. But Thexera's words suggested something far different. You think you know humans, she continued, her voice growing stronger. You see their small stature, their soft skin, their short lifespans, and you dismiss them. This is a mistake that will cost you everything you hold dear. The first contact disaster. The commander's image shifted slightly as she leaned forward, her expression becoming intense. Our first encounter with humans was supposed to be routine. Intelligence reports indicated a small mining operation on the planet they call Kepler 442 bits. 47 humans operating basic extraction equipment. Our fleet carried over 10,000 trained warriors. She laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. The humans were led by a female named Captain Sarah Chen. When our ships entered their system, we expected immediate surrender. Instead, we received a simple message. This is our home. Please leave peacefully. Thexera's amber eyes darkened at the memory. We responded as any civilized species would. We informed them that their planet contained resources needed by the Dominion. We offered them relocation to a suitable world and compensation for their inconvenience. Standard protocol for dealing with primitive civilizations. The broadcast showed grainy footage from Vorthan ship cameras. Images of a small human settlement nestled between towering mining equipment and rocky outcroppings. Their response was unexpected. Captain Chen thanked us for our offer and politely declined. She said, and I remember her exact words, "We appreciate your generosity, but we've put too much work into this place to leave now. Maybe we can find another solution." Underestimating the enemy. Thexera's expression grew grim as she continued her account. We interpreted this as typical human stubbornness. Our behavioral analysts assured us that a show of force would quickly bring them to reason. We positioned our fleet in orbit and began standard intimidation procedures. The footage showed massive Vorthan dreadnoughts, each 1 kilometer long, casting shadows over the human settlement below. For 3 days, we demonstrated our superior firepower. We destroyed asteroids, melted ice caps, and showcased weapons that could level continents. The humans watched silently and continued their work. She paused, shaking her head slowly. On the fourth day, Captain Chen contacted us again. She seemed amused. She said, "You have impressive ships, Commander, but you're missing something important." When I asked what that might be, she simply smiled and said, "We're miners. We know how to move mountains." The trap is sprung. The commander's voice dropped to almost a whisper, forcing viewers to lean closer to their screens. We should have listened. We should have understood what she meant. But we were arrogant. We believed that superior technology and numbers guaranteed victory. The broadcast showed tactical displays from Vorthan command ships, neat formations of warships preparing for what should have been a simple orbital bombardment. The attack began at dawn, their local time. Our first wave of plasma cannons lit up their mining facility like a small sun. Dust and debris filled the air for kilometers around. Our sensors showed no life signs remaining. Thexera's 4 hands clenched into fists. We were celebrating when the explosions began. The footage shifted to show something impossible. Vorthan dreadnoughts, massive ships designed to withstand the most powerful weapons in the galaxy, suddenly buckling and tearing apart in space. The humans had done something we never anticipated. While we were showing off our weapons, they were studying us. They calculated our orbital patterns, analyzed our ship designs, and identified our weaknesses. Then they used their mining charges, simple explosives designed to break rock, to trigger a chain reaction. The mountain moves. The commander stood up in her cell, her full 7-foot height imposing even behind the barriers. Kepler 442 bits has an unusual geological structure. The humans had spent months studying it, mapping every fault line and mineral vein. When they detonated their charges, they didn't just destroy our landing sites, they literally moved mountains. The broadcast showed impossible scenes. Entire mountain ranges shifting, massive chunks of rock launching into space with the precision of guided missiles, and Vorthan ships being crushed by debris moving at incredible speeds. Captain Chen had turned an entire planet into a weapon. Our ships, designed to fight other ships, had no defense against mountains traveling at orbital velocity. In less than an hour, we lost 60% of our fleet. Thexera's voice cracked with emotion. But that wasn't the worst part. As our ships burned and our warriors died, we received another message from Captain Chen. She was standing in the ruins of her facility, covered in dust and blood, but alive. She looked directly into our cameras and said, "Commander, you're welcome to stay and help us rebuild. Otherwise, safe travels." The broadcast flickers. Suddenly, the transmission began to waver. Static lines appeared across the screen, and Thexera's image flickered in and out of focus. "They're trying to cut the signal," she said urgently, looking over her shoulder at something off-camera. "There are forces within the Galactic community who don't want this information public. They believe they can control humans, use them as weapons against their enemies." The interference grew stronger, threatening to cut off the broadcast entirely. "Listen carefully. Humans don't think like us. They don't follow our rules of warfare or diplomacy. They see problems where we see impossibilities, and they find solutions that—" The screen went completely black for several seconds before Thexera's image returned, now clearly distressed. "They're breaking down the door. I don't have much time. What I'm about to tell you next is the most important warning in galactic history. The secret revealed." Guards could be heard shouting in the background as Thexera spoke rapidly. After Kepler 442 bits, the Dominion classified all information about humans. We studied them in secret, trying to understand how 47 miners had destroyed our fleet. What we discovered was far worse than we imagined. Her 4 arms gestured frantically as she spoke. Humans don't just adapt to their environment. They remake it. They don't just survive disasters. They learn from them and become stronger. Every challenge you present to a human becomes a lesson they will use against you later. The sound of plasma cutters could be heard getting closer. The mining equipment that destroyed our ships. The humans had modified it during the 3 days we were demonstrating our power. They took tools designed to break rocks and turned them into planet-killing weapons in less than 72 hours. The warning. Thexera looked directly into the camera one final time, her amber eyes filled with desperate urgency. Do not make the mistake we made. Do not assume that humans are weak because they seem primitive. Do not believe that they will surrender because they are outnumbered. And above all, do not give them time to think. The sound of her cell door being breached echoed through the broadcast. Because if you do, they will find a way to turn your greatest strength into their most powerful weapon. This is my testimony. This is my warning. Humanity is not the galaxy's newest member. They are its most dangerous predator. The screen filled with static as guards burst into the cell. For a moment, viewers could see Thexera being dragged away, still shouting. Tell them about Europa Station. Tell them about the ghost. Tell them. Then the broadcast cut to black, leaving billions of beings across the galaxy staring at empty screens, their minds reeling with questions and a growing sense of unease. In the silence that followed, one question echoed through countless civilizations. If humans were truly this dangerous, what else had the galactic powers been hiding? The hunt begins. Technical difficulties. For 23 minutes, every major communication network in the galaxy displayed the same message. Technical difficulties. PLEs stand by. But those with access to secure channels knew the truth. Emergency meetings were being held in secret chambers across dozens of star systems. The Galactic Council had invoked Protocol 7, information suppression at the highest level. When the broadcast resumed, viewers were surprised to see Thexera back in her cell, though now she appeared to have been beaten. Her silver blood marked fresh wounds across her dark blue skin. They thought they could silence me, she said, looking directly into the camera with defiant amber eyes. But there are those within the galactic community who believe the truth must be told. So I will continue. The second revelation. Thexera struggled to her feet, her 4 arms supporting her against the cell wall. What happened at Kepler 442 bits was not an isolated incident. It was a warning we chose to ignore. 6 months after losing our fleet to 47 miners, the Dominion launched Operation Thunderfall, our largest military campaign in 3 centuries. The screen flickered with tactical displays showing an armada that dwarfed anything seen in recent galactic history. Hundreds of ships, millions of warriors, and weapons capable of sterilizing entire worlds. Our target was Europa Station, humanity's largest military outpost in the Centauri sector. Intelligence indicated they had 30,000 personnel and a modest defensive fleet. We brought enough firepower to conquer a dozen worlds. She laughed bitterly. We were hunting rabbits with weapons designed to kill gods. Or so we thought. Europa Station. The commander activated a hidden data crystal, and the broadcast showed detailed footage of Europa Station, a massive structure built into an asteroid, bristling with communication arrays and docking bays. Europa Station was humanity's attempt at a traditional military installation. Our analysts were confident this would be a straightforward siege. Humans in a fixed position, with nowhere to run and limited resources. The perfect opportunity to demonstrate Dominion superiority. Thexera's expression darkened. We were wrong about everything. The station wasn't their fortress. It was their trap. The human commander. New footage appeared showing the human male in his early 40s, with graying hair and calm, intelligent eyes. He wore a simple military uniform without the elaborate decorations common among alien commanders. This is Marcus Rodriguez, though he was known to his enemies by another name, the Ghost. He commanded Europa Station's defenses, and he was the architect of our destruction. Thexera's voice carried a note of grudging respect. Rodriguez had studied every battle the Dominion had ever fought. He knew our tactics, our psychology, our strengths and weaknesses better than most of our own commanders. But more importantly, he understood something about humans that we had failed to grasp. The impossible fleet. The broadcast showed long-range sensors detecting the approaching Dominion armada. What should have been a moment of panic aboard Europa Station instead showed calm, methodical preparation. When our fleet arrived, Rodriguez did something unprecedented. He broadcast a message of surrender. The footage showed the human commander speaking directly to Thexara's flagship. "Commander Thexara," Rodriguez's recorded voice said, "I am Marcus Rodriguez, commanding officer of Europa Station. After reviewing your fleet composition and firepower, I must conclude that resistance is futile. I am prepared to discuss terms of surrender." Thexara shook her head slowly. "We should have known it was too easy. Humans don't surrender. They adapt. But our arrogance blinded us to the obvious deception." The Ghost's gambit. The commander leaned forward, her amber eyes reflecting painful memories. While we were negotiating surrender terms, Rodriguez was implementing the most audacious military strategy in recorded history. He had spent months converting civilian cargo ships into weapons. The broadcast showed what appeared to be normal cargo vessels, the kind used to transport food, supplies, and manufactured goods throughout human space. These ships looked harmless because they were supposed to be harmless. But Rodriguez had done something impossible. He had convinced 300 civilian captains to volunteer for what was essentially a suicide mission. Thexara's 4 hands clenched together. Each cargo ship had been fitted with a single, massive kinetic weapon, essentially a railgun built from mining equipment. They had no shields, no armor, no sophisticated targeting systems, just human ingenuity and a willingness to die for their cause. The ambush. The footage shifted to show the Dominion fleet arranged in perfect attack formations, confident in their overwhelming superiority. Then, as if materializing from empty space, hundreds of cargo ships appeared at the edge of the system. The Ghost had hidden his fleet in the system's asteroid belt for weeks. They used minimal power, basic camouflage, and absolute communication silence. Our sensors never detected them, because we weren't looking for cargo ships carrying weapons of mass destruction. The next few minutes of footage were chaos. Cargo ships, moving at incredible speeds, fired their improvised weapons and then immediately broke apart under the strain. But their projectiles, massive chunks of metal accelerated to nearly light speed, tore through Dominion shields like they were made of paper. In 17 minutes, we lost more ships than in the previous 50 years of warfare combined. And the humans accomplished this with converted cargo vessels piloted by volunteers, civilians who had never seen combat before that day. The psychology of fear. Thexara sat back down, her injuries clearly causing pain. But the physical destruction was only part of Rodriguez's strategy. As our ships burned around us, he began broadcasting on all frequencies, not threats or demands for surrender, but something far more terrifying. The screen showed Rodriguez, still calm and professional, speaking from Europa Station's command center. "Commander Thexara," his recorded voice said, "I hope your crew understands that this outcome was preventable. Every life lost today could have been saved if you had simply respected our earlier request to leave our territory peacefully." Thexara's voice dropped to a whisper. He wasn't gloating or threatening. He was disappointed, as if our entire fleet was nothing more than a minor inconvenience that had forced him to waste time and resources. The psychological impact on our surviving crews was devastating. The true horror. The commander stood again, using the wall for support. But the worst revelation came later, during the cleanup operations. Our forensic teams analyzed the destroyed cargo ships and made a discovery that changed everything we thought we knew about humans. She paused, her amber eyes filled with something that looked like awe mixed with terror. The kinetic weapons that destroyed our fleet weren't newly manufactured military hardware. They were improvised from agricultural equipment, construction tools, and mining machinery. Rodriguez had taken devices designed to plant crops and build homes, and in a matter of weeks, turned them into ship-killing weapons. The broadcast showed technical analyses of the weapons, crude but devastatingly effective designs that violated every principle of conventional military engineering. This is what makes humans truly dangerous. They don't just fight with weapons, they fight with imagination. Every tool becomes a weapon, every problem becomes an opportunity, and every defeat becomes a lesson for future victory. The final warning. Alarms began sounding in the background, and Thexera looked urgently at the camera. They're coming for me again. But there's one more thing you must understand. After Europa Station, Rodriguez disappeared. Our intelligence agencies have spent years trying to track him down, but the ghost has become a phantom. He could be anywhere, training others, preparing for conflicts we can't even imagine. The sound of approaching guards grew louder. Humans don't just win battles, they evolve during them. Every engagement teaches them something new about warfare, about their enemies, about their own capabilities. What you face today will be weaker than what you face tomorrow, because humans learn faster than any species in the galaxy. The cell door began to buckle under the pressure of plasma cutters. This is my final warning to the galaxy. Humanity is not just another species seeking its place among the stars. They are apex predators disguised as prey animals. They are innovators who can turn any situation to their advantage. And they are survivors who will sacrifice everything to protect what they consider theirs. The end of the broadcast. As guards burst into the cell, Thexera shouted her final words. Do not hunt humans unless you are prepared to become the hunted. Do not challenge them unless you are ready to face weapons you cannot imagine. And do not assume that victory is possible just because you outnumber them. The transmission cut to static, then to black. Across the galaxy, billions of beings sat in stunned silence, processing what they had heard. In hidden chambers throughout civilized space, emergency meetings were already underway. Some argued for immediate action against humanity before they could become an even greater threat. Others insisted on diplomacy and alliance building. But in the depths of space, on a small, unmarked vessel drifting between the stars, a human male with graying hair and calm, intelligent eyes watched the emergency council meetings through intercepted communications. Marcus Ghost Rodriguez smiled quietly to himself and began composing his next message to Earth Command. The galaxy had finally learned to fear humanity. Now the real game could begin.